in my era, he won all of the tournaments. But a nice man, a very nice man, because his handicap was not realistic. It was a phony handicap.
He had this club in his heart, though, boy. He gave up time.
Let me tell you something. Mike Manco taught me a lot of things. A lot of things. In fact, when we joined the club, we were pre-resident. We were members of the club, but they were called pre-resident. Mm-hmm. And we couldn't play any golf. So Mike Manco was on the board, and I spoke to Mike, and he said, and he made, they made a rule that we could play after 3 o'clock on every day, so pre-residents could play. Mike did a lot of things on the golf course but they were well thought out. I mean, they weren't out of the blue. He wanted to do the right things for the club all the time. We had a member here called Bill Silico, and Bill Silico was a very, very fine bowler. In fact, he had 4 sanctioned 300 games. And I recall one day we were playing gin, and Bill Selico says, he puts his cards down and he said, Mike, excuse me, I have to go to the bathroom. And he picks up a telephone in the bathroom or wherever, and there's a call for Dr. Manco. And Manco picks up the phone, and Selico says, gin. And that was the last time that Manco and Selico ever played cards together.
That's hysterical. That is it. Mm-hmm.
Now,
how about Ken Stouffer?
Ken Stouffer was, that's one of the guys. I had Ken Stouffer, stickler. Mm-hmm. Ken Stouffer was right down to the nuts and bolts. It had to be that way, only that way, and he never deviated from that way. And he was inflexible. I had him down inflexible, not able to make changes when he had when he should have changed. When he had something in his mind, it had to be that way or it was wrong. He was a tough guy to deal with. There was another one that just came to my mind, and it slipped my mind. Who else did you ask?
You've covered them all.
Okay.
Yeah.
How
about Cliff Lewis?
Oh, Cliff Lewis was one of my good friends. I played a lot of golf with him before I started playing with, he was in the insurance business. Oh, I'm going to tell you a few stories about that if you'd like to hear. Cliff Lewis and I won the Northern Ohio Golf Association a 2-man best ball twice. We won at Oakwood, and we won at Lake Forest. He and I played as best ball here, and we won it several times. But the story about Cliff Lewis was in the insurance business, in the casualty business. And I would help Cliff on several cases when life insurance was involved. And we did very well with his casualty customers, and we sold insurance. And then he became the insurance man for George Steinbrenner at American Shipbuilding. And so Cliff calls me one day and he says, why don't you come out here, because I think we can do something here. So I met with him, and I invented a system of key man bonus that we would sell to the employer or so Jay Cam, I don't know if you know Jay Cam or not, but he's a professor of finance at Baldwin Wallace, and he was George Steinbrenner's brother-in-law. So I went to, with Cliff, I went to see George to try to sell him on the idea of giving something to his sister through his brother-in-law, who works at American Shipbuilding on a basis. And so we talked, and I says, now here's how it works. You buy the life insurance policy. You own the policy, and the premiums are paid by you, and you own the cash values. And the death benefit, the difference between the cash values and the death benefit, go to the beneficiary of the policy, which would be your sister if Dr. Cam died. And he sort of liked that. So he bought $1 million worth of life insurance. And the premium was like $22,000 a year or something like that. And we walked out of there. They were paying it by the month out of the checking account of the corporation. And I had the application signed by Dr. Cam and George as the owner, and got a monthly premium, which was $2,000, because when you paid monthly, you had to pay an extra amount. And I told Dr. Cam that I'd call him the next morning for the examination. Well, I called the next morning, I called and I called and I called, and he's not in. So I finally talked to Cliff, and he says, John, we're not going to sell these people. Bring the check back. I says, what happened? What's the matter? Well, George and Dr. Cam got into an argument, and he fired him. And you notice how many managers he fired and everything.
Oh, yeah. Baseball and everything. Yeah, gosh.
So, but Cliff and I did a lot of things like that, and Cliff was a good member. He died here a couple of years ago. And Oakley and Cliff used to stand at the bar downstairs, and right underneath the TV in that corner, and there's a plaque underneath at the bar, Oakley's corner or whatever it was. Maybe this is not the. I'll tell you a story again about George Steinbrenner. George Steinbrenner called me many years ago, and he wanted to buy $25 million of life insurance. And he said to me, are you sure you can get it? I said, he says, do you know that I was rejected by several companies? I said, why? He says, because I'm a felon. And I says, what do you mean you're a felon? He says, well, I made a contribution to the Republican Party. Remember when you couldn't do that? And he was, so I called my home office, and of course they're all Republicans. They said, we'll insure them, that's okay. So I came back and I said, we'll insure you for $25 million. He says, will your company give me $50 million as a loan? And I said, well, I'll have to find out. I says, what do you want $50 for a loan? He says, I want to buy the New York Yankees. And so I called and he says, I would buy a $50 million policy to cover it. And I called the investment vice president. He says, no, we won't give him $50 million to buy the Yankees. What a bad mistake that was. Incidentally, I didn't get the business, but Mutual Benefit got the business. They gave them the $50 million, and they made another $150 million profit. But these are little...
Great story. Interesting. Interesting.
Well, we're about out of our tape here, so any last thoughts or memories you wanted to...
Well, the only thoughts that I have are that the nicest people are at Lakewood Country Club. And I don't think a golf course makes a club. I think people make the club. And over the years, there were a lot of characters, but they were all nice people in their own way. You take a Ken Stouffer, you take a Louis Dees, you take any of those guys, they had certain things. Hoot Gibson had his way. Hoot never ever talked to Jostler at the club. And yet when he went down to Florida, he called Jostler up. He says, hey, Ed, can I play golf with you tomorrow? And he would do that. He would go up to, where did they play?
At the Forest?
At the Forest, yeah. Hoot would come back. He wouldn't say hi to Ed. But people really make it enjoyable. And the other thing is that I can tell you I spend a lot of time here. It's like my second home, and I enjoy being here, and I enjoy the people who work here, the waiters, the waitresses, the pro shop people. And we had some real doozies in the pro shop, I can tell you that. I remember playing with Gary Ellis. I played golf with him. Incidentally, he became a master pro at the Fieldhouse in Pittsburgh. And he said he wanted to play. I says, I haven't played. He says, I'll play even. And he lost $250 to me. So he says, I don't have the money. So he paid me in a set of golf clubs, a bag of balls, and a putter, and a cover-up bag.
Trade.
That was trade. That was fine.
The barter system is in
And
place.
Johnny Zupan. Oh, I talked about Zupan and Miller, Clarence Miller, and
Yeah, that was a group.
oh, that was something else. And Earl Foose. I had comments on Earl Foose, and I had comments on Jimmy Dorncott. I had.
and Jerry Sindelar.
Yeah, we talked about those.
Oh yeah, Jerry Sindelar. I spoke about him. So anyway, that's it.
Well, great.
Let's
Thank you
people-
so much, John. It was just priceless.